This is Yuri from Dataforest, and today in our studio we have another guest for our amazing podcast, Empower the Data, where business begins with data and AI leads the way. And our guest today, there's Kenny McEnany. Yay! Give a bigger round of applause, as I always said, but not a lot of people around. However, Kenny, first of all, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Yes, it's great to be here, Yuri.
Yeah. For those who doesn't know, like we spoke with Kenny before, he will tell about himself a little bit more just in a few seconds. But in general, I spoke to him. He worked in the energy sector, and I found that he's a great guy who know a lot of things about the data usage in that sector. And I think that's going to be very interesting, not just for us, but for our listeners too. A little bit more about Kenny. Kenny worked as a head of asset system and data and NIE Networks. Kenny, I'm not going to take your words, so please tell us a little bit more about yourself, your position, and what do you do exactly for your company?
Yeah, so I suppose we'll start with NIE Networks. We own and operate the distribution network in Northern Ireland, and we also own the transmission network. So we transport electricity to almost 1 million homes, domestic and commercial, across the country. So we manage our assets, we connect customers, we operate the distribution network, we read the meters, we respond to faults and all these wonderful things that we need to do. But as industry specialists, we also provide advice and guidance for interacting with or around the network as well. So that could be safety, it could be system developments or policy even. For me, in my role as head of asset systems and data, I'm responsible for the strategic development of three key fundamentals for the utility organization with an asset base. So that's what is the asset, where is it, and how is it? So my team own and manage our core network asset application, so that's our geographic information system, our enterprise asset management system, and our network model. We provide insights and solutions to support the wider organisation and meeting our business objectives as well. So look, that's a bit about me, and I suppose outside of the workspace, big advocate for sort of self-sustainability. I've got lots of veg and stuff growing out in the garden. We keep our own chickens and hens and all different things. So it's really trying to bring about the sustainable future that we have. So which is great when I get to bring that into my role as well. So looking forward to this today.
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you for sharing. That sounds pretty impressive. I mean, about a million customers, that's a big number. Listen, just the six zeros there. And if we're talking about maintaining such a complex and big electricity network, what can you say about the data? How crucial is data there?
Yeah, look, I mean, data itself, I suppose, often gets boxed into this modern digital world and only really considers that digital data. But if you think about any organization, data's been important, for as long as organizations have existed, for efficiency, growth, and innovation, and we're no different. So data itself is the basis of survival for a lot of organizations. So it provides a basis of credibility as well. I remember reading a quote from Edwards Deming, and it was, "Without data, you're just another person with an opinion." So again, without that data to back up what you're saying and doing, it really has no standing. So it can have some limited value in its own self. I suppose what's really crucial, I suppose, about data is actually how you can take it from raw data, translate that through into information, and then actually use that to inform your business decisions. That whole chain is required, and I suppose that high level of data maturity right at the start is crucial to optimizing those decisions. So, as an organization, how crucial is it? Absolutely.
Okay, and question based on your answer, is that the biggest challenge that you see to collect this data in the different formats from the different sources and organize it to get the value out of that?
Yeah, look, it's certainly a big challenge that we would have as any organization in terms of the ramp up and the need in this digital era. The sheer volume is huge, and the drivers out of the back of it are increasing, and that requires not just, I suppose, having the systems and technology in place, but also the relevant skills, and that skills pool that is really important to actually take that information, as I said, from the raw data and convert that into useful information. So that's probably one of the bigger challenges, I would say, is that data skills piece that's maybe lacking in some areas. And then it's just understanding, I suppose, what we need from this mass of data that's now available. It's actually understanding what parts do we need to pick up and use and develop as a useful thing for us.
Listen, if you can manage about 1 million customers, I think you know how to pick up the right data from there for sure. But if we're talking about the accuracy of this data, how accurate that's supposed to be for you to make the right decisions, and how accurate information are you getting from the data?
Yeah, good question. Again, accuracy depends on a lot of things, I suppose. So what's accurate today or right now in the moment is maybe not accurate now tomorrow. So when you're looking at the need, I suppose that's where you've got to start. So it's always nice. I will say the Pareto is a great place to start. 80-20. If you get 80%, you're doing really well. But it starts again, as I said earlier, with that understanding of what you actually need, how you're going to be using it, and how you can take that forward. So education, huge piece that's brought in around there. And then in terms of like we can set the foundations, the need there. So policies, procedures, and guideline docs. Like everybody needs these things to be able to keep general alignment, and making sure that we're all trying to do the same thing. But again, there's no point having this stuff without making it usable, and having it easy. Going back to that big amount of data where we've got people collecting, providing. How do you make that as easy as possible? How do you refine that, push it through the funnel? So that's the likes of mandatory fields and actually defining what is the requirement, and then like we all do our checks and balances. You just don't go out and throw it in the wild. I suppose if you're really trying to hit the higher targets, of accuracy and quality, it's making sure that the information coming in is absolutely as best as it can be. That's audits and checks, and making sure that we have reporting set up that will highlight these things to us. And then ultimately, like if you get the right information coming in, that gives you the best chance to get the right decisions coming out. So yeah, significant area that we've definitely been developing ourselves to make sure that we are getting better and better, in terms of our data maturity, and quality being obviously one of those parts.
Yeah, that makes total sense, and thank you for sharing. The question that I have after your answer is just kind of just getting out of there. And if we're talking about the data and like building reports, getting some flags from there, how automated this process is?
Yeah, well, like me personally, it could always be more automated. It could be that a little bit better. I manage a big enough team, and the one thing I hate to see is them, working through a task that realistically we can see, a better solution that can be automated, and lift them away from, I suppose, those lower value tasks to something that's really adding to the organization. So in general, I suppose that we do have probably a large amount of manual effort still in place, but it is something that we have, broken down in a lot of areas. The collection process is still very much, highly manual, in terms of inspections, surveys, people filling out forms, that sort of thing. We've gone digital, I'll say, which is a big step in the last sort of 10, 15 years for a lot of these organisations. But we now need to take the next leap, I suppose. In saying that, we still do have a number of sensors, etc., that are on the network that are providing information right away, or through a short period of time. And those penetration levels are increasing annually, I suppose, as we roll more and more out there, to make sure that we can get as much granular, or to the right level of granularity, detail, that we need to get to be as efficient as possible. And as an organisation, look, we love being, innovative, and we're continually evolving. Look, as things change around us, we need to adopt and adapt, and bring these things on. So, we see this as just an ever growing, area, which is great for me because again, my team focus in and around a lot of this as well. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And another question: if we already start talking about automation of the processes, nowadays we cannot separate words automation and AI for the different sentences.
Yeah.
Everything that means automation nowadays somehow bring the AI to these conversations. And if we're talking about the AI and AI usage for automation, like electricity networks and assets management, how it works nowadays, is that something that you guys actively trying to implement, or it's just the plans, or where AI right now for the NIE and networks and for you personally?
Yes, the wonderful world of AI is great. Like we all know, everybody's using, these tools every day of their lives. I mean, look outside of what's happening. You can be better at selecting your holiday destinations and all these fantastic things, so you can get better deals, etc. Coming off the back of that. Who hasn't used it yet for helping them to prepare for a podcast or do something in that way. But from an organization point of view, like AI is going to be huge across the energy sector. I mean, absolutely huge in terms of what opportunity it does bring, as well as the challenges. So when I think about some of the opportunities, I'm looking, as you said, about asset management. That asset health and predictive maintenance in particular is an area that I quite like to delve into, and making sure, as I suppose, that we are as efficient as possible in terms of our replacement programs and how we can actually put mitigations in place for the assets that we have out on the network. So using all of this information that we have, writing the right rules and getting the right predictive models in place to make sure that we're actually targeting the areas most in need, I suppose. And that is something could happen again today, which changes that. So it's having that flexibility to be able to do that sort of work at the push of a button nearly is phenomenal. So it's trying to build up that maturity. And then you have things like grid optimization as well. So as more and more embedded generation, for example, comes onto the network, and we're having to think wider. Traditional network would have been source of generation pushed out through the full network to all of our customers, almost one way. It's a different landscape that we're operating in now, and those AI tools and capabilities now that can be layered over what is the modern grid can really help support bring in additional markets or flexibility services, or just even taking that whole system approach. What are we actually doing as a whole? Northern Ireland's not huge in terms of what we've got, so it's a perfect area or landscape that you could be a bit more innovative and flexible with. So again, we've got a huge potential here, and it's just trying to grab that, leverage it, and check it out, I suppose. And then we touched on some of them earlier, but the general business optimization. Every organization can run some of these tools to help strip out some of the more manual, burdening tasks that have limited value, and really then change people in their roles to be more value add throughout. So again, huge opportunity. On the other side of that is the risk, which we can't get away from. So it's critical national infrastructure. AI really equally comes with its risks. Great to build models. Those models then need to be maintained, updated, making sure that they actually give the right results or inform the best decisions. The human in the loop still needs to be there ultimately for a lot of this work that we have. The attack vectors now, when we think about cybersecurity, have just become huge. And we think about what's happening in the wider world in the last number of months and years, it's becoming even more critical that we have the right controls and focus in around this area too. So huge focus for the organisation as well. And as I said, then that skills area needs to be really developed. You can buy these skills in, or if you try and develop them internally, it's going to take a period of time. But ultimately, sorry, that's what we need to be doing. We need to be leveraging the capabilities that we have and skilling up people to make sure that we can meet the challenges and grab those opportunities as we see them coming down. So,
Yeah. So thank you for such an open answer. And just the two questions that I have after your answer. The first is you mentioned that AI may help replace some manual work at many levels. And if, let's say, you would be able to replace some daily routine tasks with AI automation, what would it be for you personally?
oh, if I was going to remove a daily task, can I say weeding in the garden, pulling weeds? That would be a great one if I could, use the power of AI in some way to help me there. It's a
You're
thankless
not at that
task.
point yet.
Not just there yet. No, look, I suppose we do have a lot of administrative tasks, internally, very small in some cases, so they never really get the focus, and always overlooked basically because there's bigger projects that need to be eaten up. And I think those are the things that will really help and support, my team, me personally, wider organizations and beyond. Those little tasks that, you know, AI tools coming in, just do them quickly like that, and no longer need to worry about some of those activities. So that whether that is just the movement of information around the organization, whether that is, having to fill, populate, do some of the QA, all of these little things, as I say, add up to a lot of time that could be used to really start adding value in other places. So that's the sort of thing that I would like to do.
Hey, thank you for sharing. And another question gonna be a little bit bigger, let's say. And if we're talking about not just the personal usage of AI, but in general for the companies, I know that a lot of compliance, it's a lot of procedures, it's a lot of bureaucracy there, and AI just growing very very fast. Like, and everything that we expected from AI, let's say a few months ago, in a few weeks already there, and we do not know where we're gonna end up. Let's say in 6 months. And if we're talking about the some national energetic world, let's say, and or some big companies, how do you think if, let's say, today you guys will decide to implement some specific AI model, let's say for now it's ChatGPT 5, and before you're gonna get that point that will be already ChatGPT 25, how that bureaucracy will stop this progress and how that can affect AI implementation at this specific stage?
Yeah, the pace of change, it's tough to keep up with. We utilities are generally a lower risk environment, I'll say, and fast followers are probably where historically a lot of the utilities have been. But given where we are now and the change that needs to happen even globally, in these, we need to be faster, more dynamic with these decisions, and understanding that the likes of an AI world is really going to be there, and sometimes it's just let's implement small, get it started, and let us grow it, and that comes hand in hand with developing those internal skills or having the people there that understand, can use it, or keeping abreast of the changes day to day, and really empowering those individuals to make those decisions so that they can then inform and best inform us how to actually implement those. I would see that as happening, but yeah, as you say, sometimes the bureaucracy can be tough to get through. But I think in these, a lot happens, a lot changes very quickly. So yeah, definitely a challenge.
It's like with the MHHS system where they're trying to implement that, if I'm not mistaken, from 2017, and they just launching this program here in October. And that's kind of 8 years. I mean, can you imagine where the AI might be in 8 years if they, let's say, would decide to use it 8 years ago? That's
Yeah.
going to be a huge improvement there. And if we're talking about that kind of timelines, like for the next decade, where do you see the AI
The next
for the
decade,
companies
yeah.
like yours, like within the next 10 years? How do you think? Is that going to replace like a part of your team? Or maybe that's going to replace even you? Or maybe everything is going to be AI? Or maybe everything will remain the same because of the bureaucracy and not only?
Yeah, well, I've got a long way to go to retirement, so hopefully not totally replacing me just yet in the next 10 years. But like there will be massive changes. You will see a skills shift. My team are great in terms of what they're doing, and I will see them even shift. I expect from a lot of the manual tasks that need to happen. The big platform systems that my team use today will also adopt and move on, and ultimately their roles will start to develop and change, and really getting into those not processing information, I suppose, but more into that. How do you optimize the decisions off the back of that? There will be no shortage of other things that need to be done and can be done then at pace and scale. So the things that typically take months and are really costly and have to get huge amount of effort to get programs up and running will now become, well, we've got all of these people and we need to utilize them. Let's go and use them for these activities. And you'll have seen that throughout history, I suppose, with as different technological advances happening, we move on and we then start refocusing in some of the areas. So there've been jobs that were really important a long time ago, not as important now, and they become niche skills or whatever. So that's ultimately what you will probably see with AI. Things will have changed, so the general workforce will still have to do something. Although we don't maybe know what that is 100% yet in 10 years, but we will be doing something. And the rest, or some of those manual tasks that probably people are tearing. I've clearly torn a lot of my hair out doing these things through time. Will no longer be a concern to people. That is, the AI picks that up, moves it on, and changes. And then look at the challenge that we've got coming down for us. As I said, in that energy sector, huge in terms of sustainability targets, huge in terms of capability. We're really trying to deliver for customers and getting them engaged, owning their or empowering them, sorry, in terms of what they can do in relation with the network and their own electrical devices and whatever they have behind the meter. That's probably where we're going to start seeing focus moving to, because we can actually then inform, we can help in these areas more so than maybe we can today, because again we've got all this other work that still needs to be done. So it's an enabler. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna change what we need. And again, in 10 years' time, think 10 years ago where we were compared to now. Huge.
Yep. So thank you for the answer. And another question: if let's say we're talking about some specific branches of energy sector, where do you think AI needs to be needs to be implemented first? Is that going to be some renewable energy sector or somewhere in sustainability part, or where is it going to be?
So I don't necessarily see those as different as such, different areas. So if I said, look, where AI potentially could come in and transform, one of the big areas could be the likes of the market operations, for example, where we've now got um, you know people interacting with the network on a you know minute by minute scale, if we need it to, realistically, when you start getting into this, rather than I suppose what we have today. So it becomes really more dynamic, but that's not going to be a lot of people sitting at a desk trying to keep up with this sort of thing. It will be AI-driven engine that's helping to support that. So you'll see market ops probably is one of the areas that really starts to change, and that interaction in terms of trying to get people into using more, um, renewable technologies. That ultimately look to give them the power in their homes and understanding. You want to make it as easy as possible, so you have those agents basically sitting in behind, that do the heavy lifting. This is what I need as an individual. This is what I want and need. Please make it happen, I suppose, is where you'll see. So that customer interaction, that customer operation piece, and then the changes in terms of automation across the grid. We touched on automation earlier. We'll see more automation happening, decisions made, and that reconfiguration, probably that automated reconfiguration of networks, really taking on coming forward. So huge in terms of transformation from what we maybe have today in some of these areas, but it's probably some of those are the bigger areas that might ultimately change.
So the first areas where AI can be implemented, that's going to be definitely not something that can put under the risk the energetic system in general. So we're talking about some communication, demand, requests, etc. Is that correct?
That's it. So you think about just the handling of the information. Realistically, you strip back a lot of those, and it is the movement of information around to the right places at the right time. Today, that is through systems. Potentially, you've got individuals in there too who are having to drive or change something particularly. But whenever you see that coming in, the increase in sensor, that visibility in the network and the wider energy system, you will see that now all coming together quite nicely, where actually it becomes more automatic. So yeah, those are the areas that are transforming.
Thank you for sharing that. And we're slowly but surely getting to the end of our podcast. And there's just a couple more questions that I want to ask. It's just the first. Where do you see the AI in the next 10 years, just in your life? We're not talking about NIE networks and not about the energetic sector. How do you think? Is that going to be something like Jarvis from Iron Man that will help you a lot, or that's going to be something from Terminator 2, and we're not going to have that conversation?
Yeah, no, well, funny you bring in the robotics side of it there. It really is that robotics technology keeps up a pace. Like, I don't know, do you have a lawn with a robotic hoover or a robotic mower? Do you have a robotic hoover in your house? Ultimately, look, there's a thing in there that's making decisions. I know it's a lot of sense, but ultimately, look, it's able to do things today, and that's maybe that's as far as that technology needs to go. But there will be engineering heads out there who will take these things to the next level. I would love to see a bit more, of the other technologies keeping pace with this. So that means ultimately, like, that's where you start getting the benefits. AI technologies in itself won't deliver it all. You need everything else to come at that pace. So, which one's the lagging factor at this stage? I don't know, but yeah, in terms of taking some of the maybe home administration that we all have to do, making sure you've got the kids getting out to their different things at the right time, understanding what's happening, that integration with the schools or whatever's happening in the wider world. Those are the sorts of things that you'll really see probably coming together very much in the next 10 years. Schools at this point in time must be a fantastic sort of area in terms of what could really be happening through the AI world, and that whole engagement piece that sits there. But I will say, when I just want to say that actually we can't forget, look, the purpose of all this is for people. So
We hope
as
so.
much as yeah, we hope so indeed. As much as I love the technology and what it can do, look, ultimately, look, it's there for the people, so we can't step away and forget about that. Otherwise, we might be in a post-apocalyptic Terminator type world, which is not good for any of us. So
Yeah. I hope that's not going to happen and that's going to be remain just a movie.
yeah.
And the last question that I'm going to ask you is what would you say to our listeners as a final statement of this conversation? What would you tell them or suggest them?
Yeah, well, maybe just to reiterate that last bit is probably the best bit. So technology is improving so many lives around the world. AI itself has the power to make a real difference for what we're doing. It's grabbing headlights at the minute as a force for both good and ill, I suppose. And with all that excitement surrounding technology, we can forget about the people and the purpose. And I suppose what I would say I'll leave a well-known moral principle, which is apt, I think, in this AI era, and that is, with great power comes great responsibility. So let's remember, folks, just to use it well.
I hope they will. So, Kenny, first of all, thank you for sharing all the information today at this podcast and this conversation. I really enjoy it. Thank you for being our guest. I wish you all the best. For our listeners, I want to say, guys, that was Empower the Data, where the business begins with data and AI leads the way. And that's not going to be our last podcast. We're going to join the next conversation very soon in the next week. So please following our page on LinkedIn. And Kenny, we're definitely gonna tag you in that post, and you also gotta be there. So thank you for being with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been great.
Thank you guys. Have a good one and see you next time. Ciao for now. Bye bye.